Welcome everybody, this is Jason and the name of this week's workshop is The Color Out of Space. This is part 2 of the workshop, and this week we'll be looking at how we would make an object recolorable, in air quotes, through the object menu. So let's see how that's done. What makes objects recolorable? So in this workshop, instead of using the mmats, what we're going to do, we're going to override the crest with a BHAV, a change material call. So in this case, we'll be adding the material names to the string, and the way that the crest sees them is through the string. This is kind of how Maxis applies a dirty state to a counter. What steps will we be following? To make an object recolorable via the object menu, we'll need to clone the TXTR and TXMT and then add the new materials. Then we add material names to the material string and the subset name to the subset string. Then we add a change material called BHAV to change this material. Then we use import semi-globals to add a TTAB and TTAS. Then we configure the TTAB and the TTAS. To add a material, the first thing that we need to do is select the TXTR in the resource tree, then again in the resource list. Then we right-click on the resource and we select clone from the dropdown. Then we replace the texture, as we always would, with the DXT builder. We change the file name in the text box and we click commit. Then we select the TXMT in the resource tree and the recolorable material, in this case, the chrome material, because we're using the Maxis Apple. We right click on that, we select clone in the dropdown. In the TXMT, we change the file name and we also change the standard material base texture name. We just change that to correspond to the TXTR that we added. We would do this for each of the materials that we're adding, and then we commit and we save. The fixed integrity operation. So once we've added all of our materials, we select tools, object tools, fix integrity. Then we get the scene graph rename wizard. We don't change the name, we just click update and then OK. And we save our changes. Now, we go back to the TXMT, we select the OG TXMT in the resource list, we just copy the file name without the TXMT suffix, and we paste that to our trusty notepad. We can do the same thing for the subset if it has a long, weird subset name like the Maxis Apple. Then we select the STR in the resource tree and the material names STR in the resource list. It might not have exactly this name, but it's always going to be the one with an instance value of 88. On any of the blank lines, we would need to add the prefix, which is #, 0x1C050000 exclamation point, and then the TXMT name. And then we would do this for all of the materials that we're going to add. We would just need to add the material names. Then we go to the mesh groups STR. It's not always going to have that name, but it's always going to end in, the instance number is always going to be 87. In this one, we're going to add the subset name. So in this example below, on line 6, I added sculpture big apple _ chrome. Then we just commit and save. Then the change material call. So we go to the BHAV in the resource tree, and then any of the existing BHAVs in the resource list, we right click on that and we select add. Then we're going to add the BHAV that I provided in the workshop post. Once we've added that, we select that BHAV, we hop over to the resource tab, we give it a unique instance number. Then we hop back over to the plugin, and on the second command line, change material, we're going to see this little tool icon over to the right. So we make sure that we've got that line selected. We click the tool icon and we're going to get this pop-up. In the pop-up, change the material from dropdown so that it points to the correct material, and then change the mesh from so that it points to the correct subset. We just click that little fast forward button in each of the drop downs there, and we click OK, and we save our changes. Then for each of the new materials, we're going to take that new BHAV, we're going to right click and select clone in the drop down. We give each new resource a unique resource number or a unique instance number. And then we just repeat those steps. We make sure that we've got one BHAV for each material change that we're going to do. We commit and we save. The TTAB and the TTAS. So we select the TTAB in the resource tree. We right click on the resource and we click delete. The reason that I'm doing that is because the Maxis Apple, specifically this TTAB, is messed up and it doesn't work right. So we're just going to build our own. So we delete the original TTAB, we save our changes. Then we go Tools, Object Tools, Import Semi-Globals. Then in the top drop-down, the semi-global, we're going to select Painting Globals. Then we click on that scan link, and it's going to populate all of the available painting semi-globals. That we select that uncheck all link, we scroll all the way down to the bottom until we find the Pi menu functions and Pi menu strings. This is a new TTAB and TTAS. We just check the one that has the instance number of 1 and we import. Then the newly added TTAS, we select that in the resource tree, then again in the resource list. We hop over to our resource tab. We change the group to 8Fs. The reason that we're doing this is so that it doesn't override any of the existing painting semi-globals. We do the same thing with the TTAB. Then back to the TTAS plugin. We see that there's a list of options. So we click on that add button, we add a new line, and then we edit the new line that we added. So every ellipsis and then / adds a new sublevel in the Pi menu. In this example, the lines that I added are Apple change to gold and Apple change to green. So when you click on the Apple, the first thing that you're going to see is the Apple option. And then you click on that and you would see the items in the submenu. Then once we've added all of the lines in the TTAS, we select the TTAB in the resource tree, once again in the resource list. We click the add button. Then in the Pi ID string dropdown, this is the one that points to the line in the TTAS. So we select our line in the TTAS. So we select the action BHAV dropdown. We just click that little arrow. And then in the PJSE resource chooser, we're looking for this package. We make sure that we're on this package tab and we select the one that we want to correspond to that string. Then for the Guardian BHAV, we just enter 0, 0, 0, 0 because it doesn't super matter. And then we repeat this. For example, we've got Apple change to gold, so we would create one for Apple change to green if those are the only two materials that we have. The Guardian BHAV remains the same. We just need to change the Pi ID string and the action BHAV. Then you're ready to test. So to get started here, we open SimPE. We're in our Object Workshop tab. And we go Decorative, Sculpture, and we're just looking for that Maxis Apple once again. It is Apple of the Eye without quotes. Click on Next. And I'm going to call this Workshop Apple 2. I done messed up. Okay. Make that 350. And catalog description, I'm just going to paste the same thing here. Click on Finish. call that workshop Apple II in the scene graph rename wizard. We click update, we click OK. And then I'm just going to save that in our project folder. Call this workshop Apple II. Give that a quick save. And as always, when creating a new object, best policy is to create a new GID. So we just paste over the new GID. It doesn't have MMAT, so you're not really doing anything here, but I'm just in the habit of doing it. Give it a quick save. Okay, so we have our very own standalone Apple. Now, before we get too far, I just want to get rid of all of the shadows because those seem to give me a problem. We don't need the shadow subsets. We don't need the shadow material, and we don't need the shadow texture. And we don't need the shadow, the lines in the shape that link to the shadow. It will show as broken in our scene graph. It's not a big deal. The object will still work, but let's keep it clean. Okay, so we've got shadowless Apple and we're ready to start. So where do we start? I like to start with the TXTR. So we've got Apple sculpture texture. I select the TXTR in the resource tree. Once again, in the resource list, I right click and I clone. Then this new one, we right click, build DXT, open our image. And this week for giggles, I'm going to use a blue one. I would just keep this one because we don't need the alpha channels. I would just keep it as DXT1, keep it nice and small. And then I'm going to rename that texture blue. Commit. And we do it once more. We just clone that one, build DXT. Don't really need to change the format. And we'll call that one purple. Commit. That's our TXTR. Then TXMT in the resource tree. Once again, in the resource list, and we clone. Our first clone, we rename the file name clone blue. Then we rename the standard material-based texture name texture blue. And then let's hop over to the file list just for the sake of consistency and rename it here. Okay. We'll just make those 3 changes and then we clone it again. This one is our purple. The standard material-based texture name, we change that to purple. Then we go to the file list tab and we rename it here. Commit. Give that a quick save, and then we go tools, PJSE, or no, I'm sorry. We go tools, object tools, fix integrity. We don't really need to, well, let's just update it for grains. Then we click OK, and it just stitches all of our new resources together. Then let's have a look at the scene graph. Let's see what's going on there. So we can see we've got the regular TXMT. It links to the gold texture, and then it's linking to the Maxis environment cube. These are orphans. What this means, they're not tied into the scene graph yet. And it's not going to show in the regular scene grapher, but we will look at this in scene graph plus after we're done. Okay, so we go to our strings. Well, no, before I do that, let's go up to our TXMT. Let's grab the file name of the original. Where I got my notepad. So we grab the file name of the original sculpture, just like that. Then we grab the file name of the blue one. Oh, that didn't work. And the same thing for the purple one. So we've just got these blue and purple materials. Now we need to make these available to be applied over the subset. Okay, then, while I'm still here, I'm grabbing this prefix here. So from the standard material based texture name, we just grab only the prefix, and I'm just going to pop this in front of the TXMT, just like this. Okay, then we go to the GMDC, we go to the Groups tab, and we can just copy this name here. Let's go to, we're looking for the one that says 88 first material names. So for the material names STR, we just grab our material name along with the prefix, and I'm just going to do that. That's the regular gold one. And then we do the same for the blue one and the purple one. We just copy and paste those names. We commit. Then we move on to mesh group names. And I'm just going to take the first line, just like that. Give that a quick save. That's our STR. Then we go to the TTAB. And the existing TTAB, let's just go ahead and delete that. Select the BHAV in the resource tree and any of the BHAVs in the resource list. Let's order them by instance. Then on any of the BHAVs, right click and just select add. And let's go with that change material BHAV. And don't worry about the name. Actually, just change the file name to Apple Gold. Then hop over to the resource tab. And, oh, I guess it's its own thing, but in any case, let's just change that to 1004 because that's the next sequential BHAV. So we change that to Apple Gold. Then in the plugin, let's click that little tool icon. And we can see this is pulling from material 4. We don't want that. We just want the original Chrome. And the subset name has to be Sculpture Big Apple Chrome. Okay, commit. Then we select that BHAV. We clone. Change that to 5. So this is now instance 5, and we're going to make this one blue. No, that's not right. We click that little tool icon. Why is that not? That needs to be sculpture. My issue is it's saying mesh group 1 here when I'm trying to point it to but let's hold up. So let's commit that one and then we go back down to the text list and 87 mesh group names. Okay, I think it's got multiple language lists. I think that's our issue. So where it says, let's go US English only. Let's click that button there and commit. And I think we need to do the same thing for, strings, the material name is already there. But for mesh names, just make sure to click that US English only so it's only got the one list of strings to pull from. I think it's pulling from a different string. Then go back up to behaves. See, that fixed it. Now it's pulling the right subset, it's applying the right material to the right subset. And same thing here. So let's take Apple Blue, right click, clone. Over in the resource tab, change that to 1006. And then we click the little tool icon. And let's just change that to purple. And let's rename our file name purple. That's the 3 behaves. So we've already removed the default TTAB. That one is broken. We now need to add a new TTAB and TTAS. So we go to Tools, Object Tools, Import Semi-Globals. Then Semi-Global. In this dropdown, we're looking for painting globals because what it means is decorative globals, but all of the sculptures and the curtains and everything it is categorized as painting globals. Then we click the scan link. Then we click uncheck all. Scroll all the way down to the bottom and we see a pie menu functions. That's our TTAB with an instance value of 1. We see a pie menu string with an instance value of 1. We import both of those. So it's going to, you can see it added a TTAS and a TTAB. We select the TTAS. We select the TTAS in the resource list. Well, actually, let's hop over to the resource tab first. Now we can see it has its own thing going on in groups. I'm just going to remove that and add 8 Fs. The reason I'm doing this is going to, if you leave it as is, it's going to overwrite painting globals for the entire group. We don't want that. Or I think for the entire, like all paintings. So we just change that to 8 Fs. And then there isn't, you can commit here, but you don't really need to. Let's just go on to TTAB. We select that up here in the resource list and we just replace group. Then back over to the plugin and let's start with the TTAS. Then we select the last item on the list. Doesn't really matter. And for my pie menu, I'm going to go Apple, ellipsis, / gold. Just copy that right quick. Then I add. Then I go Apple, blue. And then I add once more. apple purple. That's all we need to do with the TTAS. We give it a quick commit. Might as well save it. Then we go to TTAB. Okay, so once you've made your edits to the TTAS, we select the TTAB in the resource tree, once again in the resource list, and then we click add. So we click add, and then the PyString ID, this is going to be one of the strings that you added in the TTAS. Make sure that that's, we select one of the new ones that we added, Apple Gold. And then we make sure that in the resource chooser, we're on this package, Apple Gold. And then for the Guardian BHAV, we just enter a 0, just like that. And then we just add. This time we're pointing to Apple Blue and Apple Blue. Then add one more. Apple Purple, Apple Purple. And down here, you can change who can interact with it. Is it a visitor, elders, teens, children, adults, whatever groups you want to add. Let's give that a quick save, and we should be ready to test. Before we fire up the game, so in regular SimPE, in the regular scene grapher, we're not able to see how the STR actually hook up to things. But with SceneGraph Plus, we can actually check this, which is really cool. So let's grab Workshop Apple II. Now you can see that these TXMT, even though they're orphans, they're not connected to anything in the actual scene graph. The STR is referencing them. This is, I think that one might be, yeah, one of these is, okay, yeah. Those are just the default material names. This is the Maxis environment cube. These are the material names on the material string list. And then this is the object name subset. This is the one that references the subset name, the sculpture Big Apple Chrome. So that's pretty cool. That's handy. If you're not sure if you did it correctly, you can pop it open in SceneGraph Plus and just double check that everything is linked correctly. Okay, so we've got our apples side by side in game. This is the one that I did last week with the MMAP method. You can see that it's recolorable in the traditional way. This one, if you click on the menu, we go apple. For example, we want to change it to blue. There we go. What happens if we change it to purple? And let's change it back to gold. Yeah. Yes, probably because yeah, it's not ideal if for a community law, for example, because you have to have access to the object menu in order to change the color. But that is pretty much it. So you've got two methods for recoloring objects. Hey folks, Editing Jason here. So this is just a little addendum to the regular workshop. I had people asking me questions in the workshop Discord, but for some reason OBS didn't pick them up again. So I'm just splicing my answers in with the questions that folks asked. First question was from Rachel. It was about using the old school mmap method versus the object menu method. What are the pros and cons? It depends how you're going to use it. The main reason that I use it is because of the limitations of SimPE. You can only have two recolorable subsets. So if you look at some of my storytelling props, like I had this Astrometrics dome. It has, this great big dome, and the base is recolorable, and then the little scrolling star field in the back is recolorable. But then it has these lights along the sides, and because there are only two recolorable subsets, I can't make them recolorable. So the only way that I can actually make those work is to have them recolorable in the object menu. Second question was from Rachel. Why do you remove the original TTAB from the Maxis Apple? This is a case of this specific object. I don't know why it includes a TTAB but no TTAS, and the TTAB is broken. It does nothing. So in order to get it to work right, we just need to add our own. The next question was from Rachel. It was about how do you tell if the TTAB or TTAS is broken? I would check the TTAB, make sure that it's paired with a TTAS, and that you can actually see the menu options. The next question was from Rachel. It was about, as I was doing the workshop, I wasn't able to configure the TTAB correctly. So she was asking why that wasn't happening. It went well. It was just that I wasn't getting why the TTAB and the TTAS were acting weird. We always have to make sure that that group value is set to the 8Fs. Next question was from Feliday. Feliday was asking about multi-meshes, and I answered as well as I could. You could, for example, I was speaking about invisible recolors yesterday. You could map, if it's a quote unquote multi-mesh, you could map different states to different parts of the map and then just make those parts invisible. Make sure that your DXT is set to DXT3 or DXT5, and that alpha that is set up as alpha editable in the TXMT, and that would work. The next question, it wasn't really a question, it was a comment. It was from William, and it was about using the immediately function in the TTAB, the immediately option in interactions. Oh, it will immediately. Yeah, that's a good tip. Thank you very much. This wasn't really a question either, but it was something that William included in the chat, and I thought it would be helpful to people using this method. So in the OBJD, in the raw data, you've got the resource cross-references. And if you look at property 7 there, it says interaction ID table. So this directly corresponds to the instance number of the TTAB. So you're referencing which TTAB the object is using here.